All right, welcome. Welcome to the follow-up workshop of Becoming a Model LGBTQ plus School for Administrators and Teachers. I'm Rob Darrow with the Santa Cruz County Office of Education and the Safe Schools Project. You can see on the screen a QR code that will take you to the resources. The people who are here live, you have already got the link to it. It's a similar link that we used last time. Both the administrator resources and teacher resources are all linked there. So thanks for joining me today, and we're going to just jump right in. So I'm just using this screen as I always do. Consider this a safe space. The pink triangle was the symbol on Holocaust men, gay men, and the pink triangle has been reclaimed by the LGBTQ plus community as a symbol of safety and to be yourself, whoever you want to be. So know that as you move forward with your knowledge and understanding of LGBTQ plus culture and history, that making statements like this is useful for students and for adults at all levels. So feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. Make sure before we leave today that if there's any burning question that I don't cover, that you feel free to bring it forward. So I'm hopeful our outcomes today is we're going to review some of the components we talked about before, find out what your plan of action has been, either personally or professionally, figure out what your next actions are going to be. And I'm curious from all of you what ongoing support we in the Santa Cruz County Office of Education or Safe Schools Project can do to support you. So we'll cover all of those as we move along. So I combined these groups because when I did this workshop in October, some of you who are teachers came to the administrator workshop, and then on the teacher workshop, some of the people there also came to the administrator workshop. So I thought, all right, at this point, we can join all these people together. Those of you who are my co-hosts, if you can let people in, like I see somebody else just joined, I'll trust that you let people in as they come in. I appreciate that. But there's this, intersection between administrators and teachers at schools just in general. We all know this, but as it applies to LGBTQ plus students and their families, administrators are in charge of school leadership, school climate, communications, data, policies and procedures, and discipline, right? And teachers focus more on the curriculum. They worry about their class data. You all, as teachers, set up your classroom climate and figure out how you communicate in your class and deal with leadership and discipline in your world as well. And then there's what I consider in the center there. There's this shared responsibility for climate, for professional learning, for the communication and the class climate, and then I put down there celebrations of culture. So doing those things school-wide involve administrators and teachers. It's kind of hard to do it all by yourself. So I just bring that forward, and that's part of the reason I decided to put this workshop together so that we can all mutually share with one another what we're all doing in our respective schools. It's exciting to see there are representatives here from many different school districts across our county. So it'll be great to have you share those thoughts as we go through. So as I was putting this workshop together, I started thinking about how do you build your LGBTQ plus proficiency knowledge? And there's a difference between information versus knowledge, right? Information is just stuff that's often shared at a meeting or in a conversation. For some of those topics, it goes in one ear and out the other. Often we see data. We might read something in a book or an article, but we may not do anything more than just read it. Information may lead to knowledge, but sometimes it doesn't. Information comes in by listening, by thinking, reflecting, and you can spend a lot of time in that information box on the left side, right? Just thinking, just listening, right? But it's when you move over to this knowledge box that something sticks and you remember it, and it causes a relationship of some sort. Now, when I say relationship, it could be a personal relationship with another person, but it's more about the relationship with the content, with the information, with the action. And often knowledge is something we want to share with others. We feel confident, we know the content, we know the strategies to convene meetings or to teach lessons related to that content. When you read something, you remember it. You remember it because it connects with other knowledge you already have. So when we get knowledge, we can't get rid of it. It's just there. So I wrestle with this because as I work with a variety of different groups, there are lots of people around this LGBTQ plus topic stuff that are still in this information box. Oh, it's a nice workshop. Oh, it's a nice book to read. And that's great. That's the personal learning we have. But I wrestle and struggle with all of you today, how we move into this knowledge piece where we're confident with it. And granted, as I've said in past workshops, you know, none of us grew up knowing this stuff, right? Even if you are gay or lesbian yourself, you didn't grow up knowing, how do I fit this into education and put it into schools? It's not covered in those things. So for those of us who've been here or attended different workshops or been in committees or things like that, we're closer to having knowledge in this and feeling confident with this than other people. So I'm curious, what topic outside of school do you have knowledge and are confident about? I want you to think about that a minute. I'm going to stop sharing in just a second, but I'm going to let you think about that. And then we're going to type that in the chat. Some topic outside of school that you have knowledge and you're confident about. What might that be? It could be a hobby, could be anything outside of school. What might that be? So think about that. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so I can look at the chat. And then I want you to type something in the chat and I'll say go, and we can all enter in the topic that we have knowledge and are confident about. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a little thing, but what are you confident about and what do you have knowledge about? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so I'm going to scroll back through here. Somebody's good at swimming, ultimate frisbee. I put growing iris because I love growing iris. Obscure Scrabble words, art communication, friendship. There you go, right? Surfing, we've got surfers here. How to be a widow. Yeah, you got to experience that. Cooking, reading, music, vegetarianism, knitting, child development. Great. Those are great examples, right? And we've learned those. And I imagine those areas that you've learned about, that you feel confident about, you continue to be part of groups that talk about those things, or you read books and articles about them. And as you learn parts of those things, you go, oh yeah, I felt that. I know what that's like. And I'll just give you one example. So again, I love growing iris. And in one part of my yard, I had this iris growing. It was beautiful. I'd look out my bedroom window and they'd grow. And all of a sudden, about 10 months ago, they started disappearing because some gopher got to them. So I had to quickly get my iris out and start a different iris garden by putting gopher wire underneath so the gophers won't get to my new iris. So, but I knew that because I have friends that grow iris, and I've talked to people who grow iris. And on Facebook, I'm part of an iris growing group, and there's always people out there that will give me information about iris if I need it. So that's just one small example. And I'm sure that's with you, whatever topic you wrote in there, that's how you feel knowledge and confidence about. So that's part of our challenge with LGBTQ plus culture and teaching. So as I continue to think about this, I kind of went on from that to go, you know, as we apply that to your LGBTQ plus proficiency, if you're an administrator, you know, you go to workshops, you might talk to a colleague, you might read articles or books, you might view data, you might read in the newspaper or newspaper online media about parents who are resistant to talking about LGBTQ plus topics. You might have a belief in equity, right? You know, we can have these beliefs, and sometimes these beliefs show up as knowledge, right? And as knowledge, we want to apply equity thinking in an ongoing way. There's got to be generally some action. We're talking about it at staff meetings, as we meet with small groups of people, as we have passing conversations in the hallway. We share that information at staff meetings, at administrative meetings. We help create an event or highlight LGBTQ plus student events. We have a clear response to resistant voices in partnership with staff and teachers so that when there is a resistant voice, we know what we're going to say. It's not a big debate. It's just what happens. And if you're in the knowledge category, most likely you're attending LGBTQ plus events and you're visible support in many ways. I want you for just a second, think back to that topic that you feel knowledgeable and confident about. I'll bet you that you have done some of these things. You go to events that have to do with knitting or bringing people together, or if you're a surfer, you're out there surfing, right? You're practicing your craft all the time. So for administrators, you need to think about how you're going to apply this proficiency. And for teachers, so just so you know, I put administrators in the yellow and teachers in blue so that you know that who I'm specifically talking to. So this information is probably very similar for a teacher or for administrator, but the knowledge piece looks a little different. And I know I've got some school librarians on here as well. You know, how do we apply equity thinking and what's that action look like? I'll say for school librarians, you know, it has to do with the books we select for our collections. I wonder if as teachers, you spend any time reading an LGBTQ plus book to your class. In the opening check-in, several of you said that. Have you taught an LGBTQ plus lesson? You know, you could teach a climate lesson, which is how do you be respectful to other people? They might look different or talk different or whatever. You might do that. You might be the LGBTQ plus club advisor. You might attend LGBTQ plus events. And you as well have a clear response to resistant voices. We don't sit around and worry about doing that. We already have an answer to it. So that's where knowledge fits in. We're confident about that. But you know, when you haven't done it, doing it the first time can be a little scary. So hopefully through today, we move more into the knowledge world. So as I continue to think about this, I was thinking about how anytime we move in a direction, it starts with this idea, some idea, a passing comment by somebody goes, listens to some podcast and says, did you hear this? Or did you see on the news? Or some kid comes to our class and tells us something. We go, ooh, I've never heard about that before. I'm going to go learn that. So then once we get that idea, we have a choice, right? To gather the information about the idea, to read, watch, listen, or talk to people. So again, that's all information in the information phase. And then at some point, there's this transition that begins to transition to knowledge, right? You start thinking about, that was an interesting concept. Oh, I could apply that in this lesson, or I could apply that in this way in my classroom, in my school. And so then you start pondering that, right? You start creating or hatching your plan. So you kind of make that plan, and then at the knowledge level, you've got the plan and you're taking action, and then you share it and you teach it. And then I think there's another level beyond just the knowledge piece, especially in education, which is it just becomes part of our culture. It's just what we do. That, of course, we're going to talk about our LGBTQ plus populations, our students. We're going to do those lessons. It just becomes part of what we do. So I'm going to break you up into smaller groups in just a second. And I may need to get some more information of all of you before I do that. But I want you to think now about where you fit on this continuum as far as LGBTQ plus proficiency moving towards knowledge. And if you're not in the knowledge area yet, what is keeping you from getting there and to moving into feeling comfortable and confident? So I want you to think about that for just a second. And what I don't know is, I'm looking to see who you all are. So most of you, okay. I don't see too many people that are, I don't see, I hadn't read the last meeting chat there where Greg O'Meara is an expert at Netflix binging. That's good to know. Anyway, you got a lot of knowledge about that. That's great. So I think All right, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break you into different groups of 4. So you're hit some random person. Maybe you've met them before, maybe you haven't. When you first end up in this group, then share where you're at with this. I'm going to, where are you on this continuum? And why are you not at the knowledge or sharing level? And again, there's about 16 of us, perfect. So I'm going to put you into groups of 4. And you can just share that when you first meet everybody in the room, share what you teach. And if so, here's what I'll do. If some of you want to be in the same group after I open up the breakout rooms, if you want to be with somebody in particular because you want to be with them, stay in the main room and then I can put you into that room. So I'm gonna so I'm going to create these breakout rooms. Number 1, introduce yourselves to the people that are there. And then number 2, where are you on this continuum? And you may have to call this up separately, but I'll do this right now. I just made it so you can share your screen if you want to. You have access to these slides, but basically just talk in general terms. Where are you on this continuum? And if you haven't reached the knowledge level, why not? What's keeping you from doing that? So, okay. I'm going to create these now and open up all the rooms. And then I'll just, as I normally do, I'll drop around to your different rooms. And if somebody wants to be in a certain room, stick around and I can move you there.
I was wanting to be in the group with Rhiannon because she's the counselor at the same school.
Got it. Okay, so Sarah, let me see where Rhiannon went. Oh, yeah, you'll like that group. Okay, so let me put you over there. So
I like any group, but
so Rhiannon's in room 3.
Okay, great.